Well, no, if you look at it.
You all good? It's 7:01. I will call the Common Council meeting to order. Can I have roll call, please?
Mr. Schrader.
I am here.
Mrs. Schatzinger.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Present.
Mr. Gallops.
Here.
Mrs. Kane. Mr. Morrison. Mr. Wirch.
Here.
Mr. Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we ask your blessing upon this meeting. Be with all the council members as they open their ears to hear well, to listen, to discern. Give them the wisdom to think through as many ways possible, all the decisions possible, and just let your blessing be upon all the decisions made this day. Be with all of us so that we're looking out for one another. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll second.
Moved by Paige, seconded by John. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right, time for public comment. This is the opportunity for citizens to come before the council with comments and concerns on any current issue, knowing no action will be taken tonight. I ask that you keep it civil and respectful and within 5 minutes. However, discussion of personnel or of individual members of the Common Council shall not be permitted. I expect you to be respectful, and in return, I expect the council to treat the citizens with the same respect. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the record. And just to be clear, we will not be responding to any comments tonight. There's just time for you to voice your comments, and we listen and hear what you say. First person tonight will be Sandy Wisniewski.
Hi, I'm Sandy Wisniewski. I live at 425 Murray Park Drive. Previously, on January 29th, I sent a letter to all the council members addressing the future decision on the placement of the senior center. Thank you to those that responded to me, letting me know you were considering my concerns. Having a senior center in Murray Park is not what I'm questioning, but rather where it has been proposed to be placed in the previous drawings that were presented to the council and the community. As a community, the decisions we make should add opportunities for all ages and not remove them. The current drawing suggests removing the tennis and basketball courts. This seems to limit choices for community members that use the shelter house or families visiting the park. Ripon should keep existing activities while adding value to the parks to draw people and keep them in our community. Our parks need to be an asset to Ripon, offering a variety of activities for all ages and encouraging a healthy lifestyle. If one of my grandsons wanted to shoot baskets or play tennis, they would need to bike from the west side of Ripon over to Barlow Park. This is not a safe or logical solution when basketball courts already exist on the west side and are being looked at being removed. I am a retired teacher of the Ripon School District, and I see the need for our kids to have easy and close access to quality, healthy outdoor activities. I have personally observed these facilities being used at various times and days. I actually have 23 photos that I took over the month of April with various groups playing basketball, parents teaching kids how to ride bikes over there, or pickleball games going on, even during the cold weather of April. And I'd be glad to share it if any of you would like to see them. One issue that hinders the use of these facilities in Murray Park is that they are not being maintained to a quality standard that encourages its use, because many things are in need of repair or upgrade in the courts. I am submitting a petition as well that has 126 signatures requesting a new location be considered. and to maintain the current tennis courts and the basketball courts signed by various residents, including those that do use the senior center. In conclusion, I agree that the seniors need a useful place for their activities, but there is a limited population to remove activities that benefit all ages. Yes, I am in the senior age group, but I would like to see more healthy activities available for all ages. I realize that nothing's been decided, but often when grants are applied for, there are stipulations that are connected to them that may center around the original proposal. So I would like you to consider the issue that I've addressed before moving forward and making any decision. Hopefully this decision is based on adding value for all family members and that removing opportunities for future residents of Ripon is not happening. And so I do have my original letter and I have my petitions that were signed. I don't know.
And we'll take it.
And we'll take those.
I'll take it at the back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Wisniewski.
Good evening. My name is Sam Wisniewski. I'm currently residing at 425 Murray Park Drive. So I'm here to speak about the courts, the basketball and tennis courts of Murray Park. And I grew up in Ripon, and I recently moved back here about a year ago with my family. We had been living in New York City, went there to travel and study art. And with COVID and the world being as it is, I wanted to bring my family back to a small town and let my children kind of experience the childhood that I experienced. So I grew up across from the park, and I had the luxury of having the courts and having all that space and to play in them. But when I heard that the possibility of a senior center replacing the courts, it bothered me, but I didn't know why it bothered me at first, because I'm not really a tennis player, and I only shoot baskets when my kids drag me over there. So like, why did that, it just didn't sit right, like something wasn't right about it. And what I have enjoyed is watching all of the experiences that have happened in the courts, even in these past few months and with COVID, last year, people having to get outside. Even tonight, I'm watching two fathers have a conversation while their young daughters with training wheels are learning how to ride their bikes. Just the other day, I'm watching a family of 3 generations, a grandmother, her daughter, and then her granddaughters, have the most amazing game of basketball and have the best time. So the issue, I feel like what we need to honor, or what I honor, is sort of the experiences that happen in that space. The space for me isn't about the sports, it's a container for human experience. It's a place where we can run and play and be creative and be expressive and break the rules and make up our own rules. And it doesn't even have to be tennis or basketball. It's skateboards, it's scooters, it's tag, it's learning how to ride bikes, it's so much more. And just not having that there, I wonder, how does that best serve the community? And so I had the luxury of having wonderful facilities, new basketball courts, and I'm coming back and I ask the question, why does the next generation have to put up with these rusty, kind of broken down baskets, a court that's been neglected for over 43 years, that's how old I am, and doesn't the next generation deserve better than that? As a steward of this society and culture, and as a father, I want the next generation of all of our kids to have better than I was able to do. And if me doing that is just saying, hey, I think we should invest in our kids, I think we should invest in the youth, but it can be used by anybody at the same time. I think that's an investment that we have to be careful that we never stop making. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Sam.
All right, next, Annette Klein.
Hi, my name is Annette Klein, and I live at 433 Murray Park Drive, and I think the majority here know me. I have lived at this address for 49 years, which is directly across the street from the basketball court. I think it was in approximately 1980 the tennis and basketball courts were built. From my front window, I see these facilities being used daily. My kids used them growing up, and my grandkids and my great-grandkids have used them while visiting Ripon. If you take away the courts, the park becomes merely a playground for small children and a Frisbee golf course. The tennis and basketball courts give a broader appeal to all ages, from children learning to ride a bike, learning to roller skate, and tonight I saw two ladies skateboarding over there, and these were not little, they were big ladies. To families enjoying an evening game of pickleball, as I saw my neighbors, the Wisniewskis, doing last week. In this day and age, having functional outdoors facilities that are usable is vital to our community. The reasons are twofold. Number one, encouraging children of all ages to spend time outside away from screens and social media. Having outdoor spaces to use and social distance during the pandemic. We built our home and stayed here for so long, in large part because of the tranquility and peaceful, unobstructed view. The senior center being built there could also harm my property's market value. We all built and bought there because of the park. I strongly recommend an alternative location that doesn't require the senior center to demolish or destroy the recreational facilities that are currently being used every day. As the president of the Ripon Senior Center Association Incorporated and as a member of the Ripon senior community, I would hate to see the construction of the senior center displace these facilities, which would degrade the integrity of the park and which will be a detriment to both the park and the neighborhood. We do not want an obstruction of the view of the playground equipment as a matter of safety. Years ago, I heard and saw a young child in the park crying, and I went over to investigate. It turned out the family was down by the ball diamonds, and this little girl had gotten away from them. And if there's a building there, I would have never heard or seen her. So please, 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 strongly think about your upcoming decisions, and I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Annette. Thank you.
Thanks, Annette.
All right, next is, I apologize if I mispronounce this, Jessica, is that Mustoller? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Masteller. I live at 459 Murray Park Drive. I don't have prepared remarks, and I maybe don't speak as eloquently as my neighbors, but I want to echo their sentiments. We bought our home 6 years ago, and the realtor joked that we weren't just getting our home, we were also getting a home with tennis courts and a basketball court. We live directly across from the pavilion, and we too observe and use the park on a daily basis. To have a senior center there and obstructive views and change the course of how people go to the park just doesn't make sense to us. And I really, like I said, I don't have prepared remarks. I just know that it would change the face of the neighborhood, and just strongly, strongly encourage you to consider alternate sites for the senior center. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and lastly, Don Hacker.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to express my grievance in regards to the definition of the sign across the street from my house on Thorn Street that is on the side of Johnson Hall as a mural. I do not feel that it conforms with anything that even remotely resembles the definition of a mural. The definition that I submitted in a previous email to Mayor Grant states as follows. A mural is any piece of artwork painted or applied directly on a wall, ceiling, or permanent surface. A distinguishing characteristic of the mural is that its architectural elements fit the given space and are harmonious when incorporated into the picture. The sign across the street from my house is a sign painted garishly with 3 basic words designed to communicate a message. In every reasonable definition that I could discover, including the ordinances of this city for sign, as I stated in an email that I've already sent to this council, it is a sign, not a mural. How we can define that suddenly it is a sign and therefore obviate the need to enforce the code, which we have, what I might include, is very elegantly written, is very specific in its definitions, is very specific in addressing what a sign is and where a sign may not be placed. And in specifics, it says a sign communicates a message and it may not be painted directly on a building. So my contention is that by every definition of artwork, this is not art, it is a sign, and therefore we have ordinances and a chain of command by which these ordinances are to be enforced that should be instituted. And so I submit that for the council's consideration, and I thank you all for your kind thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Al has my email address if any of you want to talk to me, and I spoke with Chris Stieber as well. He wanted to be here tonight. Chris has worked for the city a long time. Excuse me. His greatest disappointment was the lack of neighborliness by the college. That's not something we can really control here in this body. But the fact that they weren't neighborly, they went ahead and painted a sign without any type of permitting process, nor in letting the neighborhood know what they were up to, says something about their intent. And I don't think we should stand for it. If you look at our website, there are specific pictures on there designed to convey what we want people to believe this city is. I challenge you, go take a picture of that sign and replace one of those idyllic pictures on our website. You wouldn't do it in a heartbeat because first off, it's not a work of art, and second off, it's a sign with garish colors and it ruins the ambiance of the neighborhood at the very least. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is a proclamation designating May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the observance of National Police Week from May 9th through May 15th, 2021 in the city of Ripon. Whereas Police Week's origins began on October 1st, 1962, when U.S. President John F. Kennedy signed Public Law 87-726, a joint resolution of the 87th Congress, and the act reads pursuant to 36 U.S.C. 136-137, the President designates May 15th of each year as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas in 1994, U.S. President William J. Clinton signed Public Law 103-322, a joint resolution of the 103rd Congress directing that the flag of the United States be flown at half-staff on all government buildings on May 15th. And whereas in 2019, the Common Council of the City of Ripon passed its first proclamation establishing the recognition of National Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week as an annual event in the city of Ripon. And whereas each year during Police Week, communities across the United States hold memorial service in remembrance of police officers who have made the supreme sacrifice for their communities. And whereas it is appropriate that we take time each year to honor our law enforcement professionals, understanding that police work is inherently dangerous, recognizing that on average, more than 58,000 law enforcement officers are assaulted each year, and that one law enforcement officer is killed in the line of duty somewhere in the United States every 53 hours. And whereas since the first known line of duty death in 1791, more than 24,817 law enforcement officers have made the ultimate sacrifice. And whereas so far in 2021, 103 United States police officers, sheriffs, park rangers, correctional officers, immigration and customs agents, and U.S. Marshals have died in the line of duty. Therefore, The City of Ripon Mayor and Common Council members do hereby declare May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the observance of National Police Week from May 9th through May 15th, 2021 in the City of Ripon. And the observance will include the following. Flags are to be flown at half-staff on May 15th. The official flag of the National Law Enforcement Memorial is to be flown at City Hall all week, and all uniformed police department personnel are to wear a black mourning band across the uniform badge during National Police Week in remembrance of the officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Proclaimed this 26th day of April, 2020.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Al, seconded by Howard. Any discussion? Hearing none.
I think,
Oh, go ahead.
probably on behalf of all of us, thank you to our police officers that serve this city.
Thank you. If there is no more discussion, all those in favor of approving this proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next item is the intergovernmental agreement with Fond du Lac County concerning public safety communication services. This is the public safety communication service agreement with the Fond du Lac County Dispatch Center. Adam, do
Yeah.
you want to give a quick
So this
synopsis?
has kind of been a long process. Chief Wallner here can comment it on a little as well if you would like, but this is the final intergovernmental collaboration agreement between Fond du Lac County, the City of Fond du Lac, City of Ripon, and the Village of North Fond du Lac, and it adds in the City of Ripon for dispatch services that we've been planning for. It's, I think, one of the final steps. The county has approved it and is now asking each municipality to approve it as well.
Any discussion or motion to approve this agreement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved by David, seconded by Paige. Any discussion? Hearing
I think
none.
it's nice to, again, point out that the Administrative Review Board includes 3 representatives from Ripon, our police chief, our fire chief, and our EMS chief, whereas all other cities have only 2. So again, I just want to recognize that appreciation, that Ripon's will have a voice, will be represented, our emergency personnel.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the intergovernmental agreement with Fond du Lac County, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next is a resolution appointing the authorized representative to file applications for financial assistance with the State of Wisconsin Environmental Improvement Fund. Adam?
Yeah, so this is a resolution. Basically, the city is, with the water utility, applying for the DNR's private lead service lateral replacement program. I don't believe it's been available the past couple years, but it's something that we've been tackling and dealing with in the water utility. So we've applied. This would designate the city administrator as the authorized representative for the city to file for that grant, basically. There's a lot more to this, but the general idea is to start chipping away at the 40-plus lead service laterals that we know. These are private laterals, so this helps with the private property's expense. I mean, the private property owner. It's a reimbursement type program, so we do want to push this forward and continue on and start getting those out of the system. So this is the second step, really. We've applied, we've been scored. The next step is to appoint and then decide if we get money, see if we get money, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Al, seconded by Dave. Any discussion?
Did you say there were 40?
I believe what I was told was 41.
Really, that's it?
We hope. That's it. I mean, we don't want any more.
Yeah. That just seems
Yeah,
quite
so,
impressive that there's that many gone already.
Yep, we would, you know, we'll decide what number we're going to apply to get out, but yeah, I mean, this is a competitive program with there's a lot of communities that have a lot of lead in the system yet, so, but yeah.
Hopefully we can get rid of the other 40 or 41, whatever it is.
Jillian?
I think this is phenomenal. We are applying for this. And a question is, it said that it's for reimbursement. So that means that the private property owner first has to put up the cost, correct? And then,
It's like, it's awarded as principal forgiveness. So basically, the city kind of fronts the cost and gets reimbursed. So we get like, there's a whole process, and I don't want to get too far out, because I still have to meet with the engineers, SEH, who's doing this on our behalf. They're working through a full-blown water study. This was a component of that water study. And as it's been explained to me, just in the short time I've had to talk about it with them, is it's a principal forgiveness type thing where the property owner has a list of plumbers that go in and they can get it done. And then, you know, we reimburse them for it, and then we get reimbursed through a principal forgiveness grant. So, I mean, if there's money left throughout the state. But yeah, it really covers their cost. So it's a good program, so a good opportunity.
that's great to hear. And just as a follow-up, so if someone knows that they have a lead service, as of this point, they don't need to do anything, correct?
No.
And then if they don't know, I know that there's been a lot of education, thank you to our local water utility, but I do know, because I've personally checked into this, that you can call our water utility in the city and they can provide a testing apparatus, or they will tell you how to go about testing it. So I guess I just want to say, if someone is listening, correct, that they should contact water utility if they have a question, and as of right now, if they do know that they have lead, they don't need to do anything, and hopefully we will get this and then get that information out to
Yep.
them, correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next resolution is outdoor recreations grant applications. This would also authorize our city administrator to apply for outdoor recreation grants with the DNR, I believe? Is that who
Yes.
the grant is for?
We did one of these a year ago, almost to the date, for the stewardship grant application for the Elizabeth Murray Park Trail Extension and Trailhead Project. We are working with MSA to reapply. Mike and I have been working hard in trying to score more points to be more competitive, because this grant is very important. But this basically authorizes us to apply for that by the May 1st deadline of applying. So I would hope you guys approve this so we can apply quick. But we're on our way and have the majority of it done, and hope to get it, because it's a big source of funding to kind of round out the whole senior center trailhead project.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a
this?
motion to approve applying for the grant.
I'll second.
Moved by Howard, seconded by Page. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the resolution for the outdoor recreation grant application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. One more resolution. This one is amending the 2021 budget. I'll throw this to Adam again.
So this needs to be passed by a 2/3 vote, just to be clear there. But this is a resolution amending the 2021 budget. So that's this year's budget. I think it says 2020 up top, or I might have.
No, it says 21.
Okay, I have the wrong copy. So basically, yep, there it is. We need to amend our current year budget to reduce the expenditures and contingencies, the contingency fund by $200, and reduce the overall spending by $200, because expenditure restraint requires you to be extremely precise in your rounding. And under our current budget, we do not qualify for expenditure restraint because we hit the 1.7. We technically do because it's 1.696%, but it rounds it up to 1.7, kicking us out of eligibility. If we adjust our overall expenditures by $100 to $200, we automatically fall under and we qualify for expenditure restraint. We need to we need to qualify for expenditure restraint because that is a payment in 2022 that we rely on as state aid, and we have to apply for our expenditure restraint with the state by the end of this month. So we can get this done now, we can apply, and we won't have any issues. So that's all I have.
Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by David, seconded by Jolene. Any discussion?
I think Adam did a good job of explaining it. It's a rounding exercise, and obviously, rounding up puts us right at the number, and right at the number we don't want to be. And we're doing this ahead of when it has to be officially approved by the state. And so we're simply moving $200 out of the contingency to accomplish that end. This would call for a roll call vote.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Adam, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Schrader.
Aye.
Mrs. Schatzinger.
Aye.
Mr. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Gallops.
Aye.
Mrs. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Wirch.
Aye.
Mr. Split.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that 7 yes votes, 1 not present. That constitutes a 2/3 required.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our discussion item of the Senior Center Trailhead Project Design and Survey Service Agreement. We do have someone from MSA here, I believe, if you'd like to step forward. Adam, do you want to start us off on this one as well?
Yeah, so Carter Arndt from MSA is here, obviously. We had talked a little bit about this since we have just a little sliver over $1 million, and we have the grant and we have the donation. We got to keep this kind of moving forward. So this is one of the first steps in schematic design and surveying for that project. I can kind of turn it over to Carter and give kind of a general idea of what we're thinking.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep.
It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Carter Arndt. I'm an architect with MSA Professional Services. I was part of the team that helped put together the grant application and created the preliminary drawings that were included in that application. And I just emphasize those were very preliminary drawings. They were kind of used as a tool for the grant application so we could demonstrate one possible solution and compete to win eligibility for that money. So exciting that that happened. And accordingly, the next step is really to kind of, if the city's so inclined to proceed with the project, is to really start to design the project and consider its content, what's going to go into the building, and also consider where in the site it might be located. And so there's flexibility in that as well. As far as the services here before you today, they represent what we call schematic design, which is kind of the first stage of developing a building project. And part of that is the site survey, and that would be for the southerly half, so excluding the fields at Murray Park. Everything south of that, all that green space and everything to the south would be surveyed for consideration for the site placement. And then what is included beyond that is a process of basically initial information gathering with stakeholders and staff and leadership to kind of work through the needs and wants of the facility. And then start to kind of sort out what the implications of those are relative to budget, relative to fitting on the site, and then We've offered another step in the process, which is actually a council workshop, if you so choose to have, and get a chance for, after we kind of do our basic level of information gathering, kind of lay out some general ideas, not really designing any buildings yet, but kind of looking at the site, where it could go in general, and to come before the council and allow a discussion period. It's a very important public project that we want to facilitate consensus forming, and so this process does just that. And then from there, it goes through a process of actually refining the space needs and then starting to actually propose building designs. So it goes through a process where we would propose the building design and accordingly look at budgeting more specifically, and then a series of video conferences along the way in that process. And then ultimately reaching a point in the process where we have a final schematic design that you can begin to consider more fully. And then it would be the kind of the stepping stone to the next stage in the process to develop the plans in more detail. So that is what these services entail. And I'm happy to take all your questions and comments.
So I just have one question for you. Just to be clear, this proposal of $29,000 doesn't get us the set of plans, it just gets us the
preliminary
groundwork for
yeah.
design.
Right, and it would include like a three-dimensional sort of model of the building, so you can begin to actually visualize it, which is a wonderful tool, for it to communicate what the idea of the project is. So it does get you just a preliminary design.
So a rough layout.
Excuse me?
Just a rough layout.
Well, yeah, it would be a hardline computer layout and a model. So I mean, it's the beginning stages of the final design. So it's a kind of hard and fast, but it can change.
Okay.
But I mean, it gets it into focus, starts to bring the project into focus. There's the design that we laid out was kind of a placeholder sort of thing that we actually had that project, used it somewhere else and in the context of a trailhead and a kind of a gathering space. It was like, okay, for the sake of the grant application, it kind of depicts the program. There is flexibility, in the grant application or the grant process for it to move around the site and to be configured differently. Obviously, the financial commitment that comes through the grant is limited to what they approved, but obviously the city has discretion beyond that to modify and change things. So that's the nature is a preliminary.
Okay. John?
Just curious, what does a set of working plans cost? Do you go on a percentage of the total cost?
It depends on the scale of the project, so that percentage changes. The larger the project, the lower the percentage. Right now in the grant application, we have not just for the working documents, but for all the services entailed, all the way through construction, so that's all the construction administration services and bidding. We had a placeholder of 10% of the construction cost was what's in the grant application for what those services could cost, which is appropriate to the scale of the project, since it's in the realm of things, it's a little smaller project, and nonetheless, that's really this amount here is a simple math equation of 15% of 10% of the estimated construction cost that was in the grant, and that's what a typical schematic design percentage fee is 15% of the overall fee.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So that 10% of construction cost is basically project management fees?
It includes construction administration fees.
Okay.
And includes all the design, it includes the working documents. So it's the multi-phase process in a building project is schematic design development, where we get all the engineering started, and then construction documents, which is the project manual and all the detailed engineering. And then you go through bidding, includes the bidding services, and then all through construction to be kind of the city's representative during construction, and take it all the way through when ribbon cutting time, and the building gets turned over. So it includes all those services.
All right, thank you. Al?
I'm not really good at math, but it seems we're about $500,000 short of the 1.59 million that we want to put into this. So we need this as part of the grant application for the stewardship grant? Or is this contingent on the receipt of the stewardship grant?
So the budget, once again, is just sort of based on the overall concept, I believe, that it says 1.59. We have to hammer that out through this process, the budget on what the building and everything is going to cost. This is more driven by the CDBG aspect of things. We have to keep this moving because we've accepted $552,000. In the background, we are applying for stewardship, which complicates this a little bit because a portion of that $1.5 million estimate is from that stewardship grant. So we won't know if we have those funds until later on in the year, but we can't stop and wait. So instead of coming in August and saying, here's a project, services agreement for 15% of the overall project cost, when we got to maybe turn dirt this year, we got to make some decisions. So this is kind of the first step of resetting the design elements, where it's going to go, what it's going to look like, what it's going to entail, what our budget really is going to look like, to get to a point where then, yes, we can bid it out later on in the year with or without stewardship. But ultimately, this is kind of, once again, we had talked quite a bit about it. We just need to step back. So this is kind of the step back before we take the big step of bidding and finalizing everything, so.
Thank you.
Jim?
The trailhead grant is contingent on the building being in Murray Park.
Yes, that is those two things, because that's where the Mascoutin comes into town, yep.
So, to address some of the concerns that were brought up earlier, and some I've even had myself, that part of it has to be in the park. Where exactly in the park has not been, there was a rough sketch originally when we first talked about this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Originally, I believe I first talked about this. There was a rough sketch of where it would be, and potentially where the tennis courts, basketball courts, those kinds of things, because of the parking lot, the infrastructure, the sewer, those kinds of things. That is not hard, fast, done, oh my God, it has to be there or nothing else in the world, correct?
Totally correct. This is a reset of everything. This is starting basically from scratch. I mean, we need to get an idea of what is the budget, what it looks like, what everybody wants in it, and just hammer through that, over through July, I think it was, right, Carter? Yeah.
Exactly.
That was July, if I remember
Yep.
right. And then the stewardship, how much would that funds be then?
$240,000.
And is that contingent on anything of being in the park or anywhere, or is that just on its own for people?
I mean, that is in the park, because the trail portion is where this really stewardship, that's where it makes it eligible for stewardship funding is recreation.
Anywhere in the park facility?
Oh, yeah,
Just
there's
people-
no, yeah.
So people are understanding, it's just not we're picking it to go in the park because we want to put it in the park and this is where we decided to go. There is financial reasons why we're doing this, to have a bigger, nicer building and to be able, even to be able to do it, potentially. Even be able to build a senior center, it is contingent almost on being in that park based on our funding revenues that we can use to build it.
Correct. Correct.
Between the gift, between the stewardship, between CBDG, all the different things. That park is the hub and the reason why we're getting the monies we are, and even have to potentially even talk about this, correct?
The math on it is we're trying to leverage the $500,000 donation against $750,000 or so of grant money.
Correct. If we choose to uproot it entirely out of the park and move it to downtown, that 750 goes away, we're back to our original grant, or excuse me, gift,
Yes.
excuse me, of the 500,000-ish.
With the CDBG, so it would be 1 million. Yep.
So it's a matter of trying to get bang for our buck, if that's a correct phrase or a correct term. But it's not set in stone again. And I have questions of that. I have questions of the design, it specifically talks about 3,600 square feet, outdoor areas, all that. Obviously, those are all part of the application because we have to put something out there, what we're thinking it would be. But that will have to be reined in based on our budget.
Correct.
So where are we gonna estimate that budget to be so that we can get that number more in line of what we need to actually design? So are we gonna say it's 1.6 and this is it? I mean, do we have to go down to 1.4, and then if we have more, we can do more? My question too would be,
Yeah.
to comments that were heard earlier about the courts being taken away and things like that. Could we design, it's a senior facility, courts on the other side or somewhere else? If this is the best place for this to be, structurally, infrastructurally, you know, for sewer, water, all the different things, if that's the best spot, can we build a tennis court right next to it, or the other funding options that we have? If the true issue is the tennis courts or the basketball courts, can we just build those on the other side and put this here? And have a whole new structure up there, have the senior center and new courts to our century now, instead of 43 years like Sam said. They're the same courts I played on too, Sam, I agree.
It all has to fit in the budget, so, yeah, I mean, that's going to be the group's decision through this process.
And I believe that was part of this originally too, was the fact we were trying to leverage so that we could use our funds to do other things in the park as well, as part of the whole structure of that park. Because then we'd have our money that we could borrow or have in our budget. Am I saying it right, Howard?
Yes.
Tell me if I'm misspeaking of that.
Use some of our funds for other facilities in the park.
Correct, versus this would be specific toward a building or an upgrade or the gift, whereas then we'd have our money to do other things, to upgrades in the park. As part of a bigger whole plan for that area.
The bottom line is it's not set to go anywhere in the park at this point in time. That's part of what is in here, is to
Not in any
locate it
spot, but in the park.
in the park.
Correct.
But not,
And just to clarify for us, part of this proposal is determining the overall budget that we have.
Absolutely. And that'll be an important part of the conversation, obviously. And yeah, and-
I like it.
yeah. Well, you know, there's an inherent tension oftentimes, you know, when we sit down, we look at all the wants and then the budget and then look at, and ultimately, you know, we think in terms of strategic planning about master planning and designing for expansion and, you know, trying to get it all planned to be what it needs to be someday. And, but you do this today, you know, and that's the kind of things we'd invoke, or maybe there's some motivation to expand the project and meet those needs fiscally, but that is all up to the council and the leadership and the community.
And also part of this plan or process is finding the location in the park where this will fit best.
Absolutely. And that'd be one of the early on discussions, actually. We'll kind of, after we get the survey done, we'll kind of cite A, B, C, D possibilities and have discussions. And usually that process starts to point, you know, to the most valid answers, and it can lead you to a good decision.
Right, John?
I'm right. You're doing the southerly half of Murray Park. Is that exactly half, or is it way to the southern end? I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, it's where the parcel dog legs, you know, so there's a large piece with all the fields, and the fields really occupy all that area.
Right, that's
So
all-
everything south of the fields, basically. So we'll probably get the edge of the field fences, you know, so if you drew a line in the overall, if you squared this parcel off, that part that's missing, you know, so it's all the buildable site, let's say, buildable portions of the site, leaving the fields intact.
Okay.
John?
Yes. I don't know if anybody's looking for help, but I would like to volunteer to help with the site and the location of it, if you're looking for some help. I know I'm not an architect, I'm not a surveyor, but I've been in construction for 42 years, and I'm more than willing to help, if anybody's interested.
Jim?
I was gonna ask too, the criteria you would use for placement, obviously not just cost comes into effect. Safety, cost, aesthetics, like you said, future expansion. Is the list endless, or is it like a top 10 things that you usually look at when you look at a placement like something like this?
Exactly, and you named some of them already, you know, so basically it's, you know, overall, the utility extensions into the location isn't that significant that it steers the bus that much unless it's extreme. So you really have a lot of opportunities there. I did get the opportunity to, you know, spend more time in the park before I came here and looked at it. And I can see there's, you know, obviously some congestion down in the area that we showed it. And in the previous planning process we went through to get to that spot, we had kind of looked at a different spot also, you know, so we've already kind of explored option B already a little bit, and we're looking forward to exploring other ones and just getting a consensus, you know, with everybody to I think there's an answer in there that I think can be win-win, for the project and for the community and the neighbors even.
So as a follow-up to all of those considerations that were just mentioned, how do you go about engaging our local knowledge base, our local professionals who can offer some insight into that? Is that something that you look to us to bring to you? Do you reach out to those? And another aspect too would be to look at the environmental impact of where it's placed too. Are we agreeing? What are we agreeing, and what is your process in engaging our local knowledge base and professionals?
It's a process that is in large part led by the city to decide how you engage. And the process you go through of, if you form a building committee, let's say, for example, or how you're going to lead the project, there's different ways you can bring different people to the table at your discretion of how you want to do it. So, and then we basically give you the tools, and we're available for the public engagement aspects. If it helps to have these sessions, of course, we'll support those things. So as far as that's what we can contribute is good visualizations and really a process that is very open and transparent. So it's kind of a sequential, logical, going through it, and you can point back, well, this is why it's here, because we needed this, and this was a challenge. And basically, so we kind of, through transparency of the process and just, I'll say good design, ultimately you can come up with something that builds consensus. Now, it's hard to always have absolute consensus, but we do our best. And usually, like I said, there's a standout answer that, everybody starts to understand, makes the best sense, and we proceed that way. So you engaging your local, if you have local professionals, experienced builders, et cetera, the city can decide how you want to possibly engage those people in the process more formally, if so. But
So what I'm kind of hearing you recommend, and as Adam said, we need to keep moving this process forward, that if we decide on this tonight, that we need to, as a city, then decide on some formality of how we move forward, whether it's creating a building committee, as you just suggested, or a way that we're going to engage stakeholders. It sounds as though that is something that we also need to move forward on. And here I see in the proposal, there's a meeting of city council stakeholder workshop that says, if desired. Can we decide that, yes, that is desired?
Presumably it is, and it can be in different shapes. It could be, instead of a council workshop, it could be a community workshop, with the council present, or it could be something, whatever shape you think is most effective. But the whole intention of that meeting was public engagement, and allowing people a chance to communicate, and the leadership to communicate, and express their ideas and be fully involved.
Al?
This is a discussion item?
We're going to allow, given the fact that time is of the essence, to move forward if someone
That's my
wants.
question.
Yes. Time is of the essence.
If we've got to move on this.
Yeah, we do. Time is of the essence. So the idea that we have a project design and survey services agreement that needs to be executed, we are going to. It's on the agenda. It's clear it's on the agenda. And if somebody wants to move that forward now, we're going to accept that because of timing.
I will move it forward.
Thank you.
Second.
So is your motion to approve this proposal for the,
Well, here's the problem I have. Okay, this was a discussion item, and now we want to move it forward. Are you going to say that, okay, regardless of where this thing heads, $29,000 is what MSA is going to get for this process?
For this phase of the process, yes.
This phase,
If
what you
the
have written
project
down today?
grows and.
No add-ons, I had to come to another meeting, it's gonna cost me $1,000 to do that.
Well, meetings do have an expense involved, so if extensive meetings are
I
involved,
understand
there's
that.
limitations to what we can do. We're gonna work hard to support the process, and over the next couple months is kind of the sequence that's listed here. So, it's not exhaustive, unlimited, but, we're not, our intention is to help get to the next phase and basically engage the whole process, the whole services for the whole project. At that time, it'll be defined, the cost of it, and then it'll be easier to even do that because we'll know what the project is in much more detail.
With that, I would move to approve the agreement not to exceed $29,000.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
I will second that.
So, moved by Al, seconded by John. Any discussion on the motion?
Well, as just mentioned, I would like to, I mean, if we are agreeing specifically to what's on here, I would like to then concretely put down that a meeting, for example, for a city council stakeholder workshop, as was described, a public engagement meeting, to state that that is desired, and not have a question of if it's desired, and that we don't get that for what we're paying. I think that that is something, if it's a part of the cost, that we as a city should take advantage of.
You can go on the record of including that in the process and removing the if desired.
Yes.
The motion would include that formal meeting taking place in one form or another. I would suggest that how that is inputted by the city appear on a future agenda. Exactly, whether it's a building committee or if it's John working with the city administrator or some local builders or whatever you want to do. So that should appear on a future agenda, but I think it's appropriate if Al is willing to accept
Absolutely.
that amendment to remove the words if desired. No for the listening public and for those that came here this evening, that it will be before the general city public for input at some point in time before it's finalized, which is what this says. So that number 2 meeting, city council stakeholder workshop would be noticed to the public, is what your motion essentially is. Get rid of the word if desired, we do desire, and there will be input by the general public at a meeting of the city council and/or committee subset that the public will be able to appear at.
Yes, I agree 100%, and well said.
Al, that's okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, seconder?
John, is that okay?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Any further discussion? John?
Do we need to add, and this might be nitpicking, the senior center director? Or would she be considered
I would
stakeholder work?
I would assume she is in the city process
Good.
as the director of the facility.
Want to make sure.
I think we
she's
can just
included.
assume that.
Well, it'd be a posted public meeting.
Right, that's what we're,
It's not a
that's what we're
private
defining. Posted public meeting of some form or another, whether it's a committee.
Committee of the whole,
Committee of
if
the
it's just a
whole,
committee, whatever.
full council, there will be a noticed meeting regarding the senior center and its location. Because that seemed to be a major concern this evening.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Al's motion to accept this agreement with removing the words if desired? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carter.
Thank you.
All right, project updates and staff reports. Adam, we have some anniversaries.
We do. Cassandra Woolert, 1 year. David LaViolet, 12 years. Travis Staub, 13 years. Lori Rich, 18 years. Ludd, 29 years. And
Cow.
Timothy Furch, 30 years. Somebody's got you beat, Ludd.
Thanks, Adam.
The other thing I would just like to mention is Jim Jacobs, our lead water operator, was appointed to the Wisconsin Rural Water Association Board, so congratulations to him. And the only other thing I had was Open Book will be held virtually by Associated Appraisal Consultants on Monday, May 3rd, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And Board of Review will be held on Monday, June 7th, 2021, from 4 to 6 p.m. at City Hall in the council chambers. That's it.
All right. Public Works, Police Department. All right. I do have one appointment I would like to make to the Plan Commission. I'd like to appoint Lance Poppy for a 3-year term, ending April 30th, 2024. He is a Realtor here in town.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Al, seconded by Paige. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Lance Poppy to the Plan Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? As approved. And I also just like to encourage the public to get a vaccine when you have the chance to do so, and continue wearing your face mask to keep everyone safe. Any future agenda items or comments from council members? Jolene?
I have two announcements. The first is that April is National Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. And I want to recognize that here, all residents in the city of Ripon, as well as our entire county of Fond du Lac, have an incredible service known as ASTOP, A-S-T-O-P. You can Google them, look on social media. I know personally the school district works with them. Our local police officers, our local mini clergy, they are a wonderful resource for anyone that has faced that. And so please know that it's free services and just a wonderful resource for all in our community, ASTOP, to put a stop to sexual assault is what that stands for. The second announcement is this Wednesday, April 28th, is One Day Rally for Ripon. This is an event, this is a really an initiative by Ripon College to celebrate all things Ripon College, and I couldn't overstate enough how the college benefits from this incredible community, this city. So many around this table we have alumni in this room. We have alumni in our emergency services, police department, throughout this city, many of our service organizations, but also many friends that are associated. And so I know that the college uses this day to really celebrate all of this. And I want to state that many at the college know, and many, now I speak as a city person, know that together the college and community are stronger. And so you can go on the Facebook page, web page on Wednesday, and you can find out more information. You'll see hashtag One Day Rally. I'm wearing a t-shirt here. If you see this, you know why. And so it's a really special day, I think, for the community and the college.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, at this time, I'll seek a motion to adjourn to a closed session under Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which this governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. We'll be approving minutes from the last meeting and discussing severance agreements for the city dispatchers.
Motion to adjourn to closed session under stated statute.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning to closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll adjourn to closed session.